Nestled deep in the heart of the mountains close to the woods, you will find a little village decorated with colorful houses and happy people. There's a powerful pack of werewolves that live in the woods. Up until recently, the farmers and villagers have lived relatively peaceful with the cryptids, but things are about to change. Ethan jolted awake from a deep sleep. Confused and not knowing where he is, he glanced at the clock on his bedside table. 4:14. He threw back the cover and sat at the edge of the bed. He couldn't quite figure out what had woken him. Then he remembered. He grabbed his 6.5 Creedmoor, which he keeps next to his bed, and rushed through the door heading for the sheep pen. As he stood at the enclosure, he let out a thunderous scream. A gruesome scene of blood and carnage greeted him. Dead sheep lay scattered around the pen, mangled with blood and guts. "This is the last straw," he muttered to himself. "I need to put an end to it." He turned around and walked back to the farmhouse. Ethan, leader of a group of hunters in the village, headed for the kitchen. He brewed a pot of steaming coffee and walked into the fresh morning air, his rifle by his side. He stood thinking of a solution to this problem. Night after night he is awoken by bleeding sheep, and every morning he's met with the same bloody mess, and he suspected the werewolves were responsible. But why? He could think of no reason why they would start attacking the livestock. Way back in 1967, Ethan and his team of hunters were hunting deer just short of the woods when he stumbled upon a baby werewolf alone and abandoned. The group of hunters gathered around the cub and curiously scanned the woods, hoping to see its mother, but there was no sign of her anywhere. As the minutes passed, they decided to take the cub back to the village. Maria, a deaf wise one from the village, agreed to adopt and raise the cub. She named him Mingan, which means dark wolf, taught him sign language, and 18 years later the werewolf still lives among the humans in the village. Ethan walked to his laptop and started delving into folklore of the village. He came across a website that intrigued him. There he discovered a hidden diary belonging to an ancestor who once encountered the cryptids responsible for terrorizing their livestock. This dark creature back then was known as the Nightstalker. With his newfound knowledge, Ethan headed for Mingan's house and knocked on the door. Mingan opened the door, his razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the sunlight. Using sign language, Ethan invited Mingan to walk with him. He led Mingan to the sheep den. In utter horror, Mingan's head bounced from sheep pen to Ethan, to sheep pen to Ethan. He had so many questions. "This happened last night," Ethan signed to Mingan. "At first I thought the werewolves up in the woods are responsible and wanted to confront them, but then I came across something. Come, let me show you." Ethan signed. Confused, Mingan followed him back to the farmhouse. Ethan showed him a picture of the Nightstalker he had come across. "Let us go to the woods and meet with Denali." Mingan signed. Denali is the leader of the werewolf pack, the name meaning Great One. Ethan and Mingan ventured deep into the woods until they saw the werewolf pack. They were immediately met with hostility, but once Mingan explained what happened, Denali motioned them to join the group. Ethan had no idea what they were discussing, but Mingan was frantically signing him as their discussions took place. It seems Denali and his pack were also targets of the Nightwalker. With newfound allies, Ethan reveals more about the Nightstalker. Legend has it that this cryptid feeds on fear and chaos to grow stronger. It has sensed growing trust between humans and cryptids and has been cunningly manipulating events to spark conflict. Denali and his pack and Ethan with Mingan devise a plan of attack. They will meet at dawn with all the villagers and the entire pack of werewolves and start the war against the Nightstalker and its minions. At break of dawn, the woods were alive with chatter, groans and the sound of rifles, guns and dry leaves cracking under weight as they all prepared to battle the savage creature that now hides in the woods. Delaney led his pack while Ethan led the villagers. They went deep into the dark woods until they found its lair. Minions were crawling on the ground, skimping for bugs, while the Nightstalker gazed into the distance as he waited. He could smell their fear and anger a mile away. The Nightstalker sensed movement behind him and slowly turned around. The pack and the humans had formed a circle, closing off any chance of escape. With horror in their eyes, the minions gazed up at their master, but the Nightstalker just stood there and gave an ice-cold stare. The werewolves charged. Roars and howls echoed through the woods. Ethan and the hunters lifted their rifles and fired. The bullets went straight through the Nightstalker, causing no damage. The werewolves all jumped at him at the same time, ripping and tearing at his skin, slashing open his minions. All the minions lay dead, torn to shreds, but the Nightwalker still showed no sign of injury. Its eyes glowed a bright yellow and it screamed like a banshee. The earth shook. Cryptids and humans alike blocked their ears. It felt as if their heads would explode. What the Nightstalker didn't know was that Ethan had learned the secret to destroying this evil creature. Ethan tore himself away from his group and faced the Nightstalker head-on in a life-or-death encounter. "I'm not afraid of you," he said to the thing as he spat on the ground. "Yeah," a choir of voices sang behind him. The creature lunged at Ethan, but his strength started fading. His movements became slower. When beasts and humans lose their fear, death for the Nightwalker is inevitable. The creature was an embodiment of deeply rooted fear within humanity itself. By overcoming their own fear, the werewolves and humans had destroyed the Nightwalker. Sensing there was no longer fear or anger, the creature dissolved into ash blown away by the wind. Once again, there is hope for coexistence as humans and cryptids rejoice. The village and the woods are safe. They have learned from this. They learned that understanding, acceptance, and the dangers of letting fear divide them could easily tear families and communities apart. They chose to live in harmony and at the same time cherish their diversity.